Married to a younger alpha. On the very first day after the wedding. He warned me not to think about robbing the cradle. Not bothering to argue with a brat who wanted to act tough. I naturally accepted his aloofness. But later, the whole question of who's chasing who got flipped around. Beckett. Don't forget what you said in the beginning. Said what? He asked back. Suddenly lifting me into his arms and looking up at me from below. Said I have a thing for defying authority. 1. Caught off guard. I was surprised for a second. Then looked at Beckett with some annoyance. Put me down. Nope. Why should I? Is it wrong to hold someone I like? To be fair, it didn't exactly sound wrong. But still, it felt a bit inappropriate. You're being too reckless. Beckett's eyes dropped to my lips. He swallowed hard. His voice going a little hoarse. Why bother being steady? What I want is you. I quickly blocked his approaching mouth with my hand and couldn't help but laugh. You're saying all the right things now. What? Not calling me an old man anymore? Beckett's face went red. Then pale. Flashing through all kinds of colors like a light show. He lowered his head and buried his face in my waist. Voice muffled. Don't bring that up. Just as we were laughing, his phone rang. Beckett frowned but didn't let go of me. I patted his shoulder as a signal. Come on. Stop fooling around. Answer it. Beckett reluctantly put me down and picked up the call. Not long after, he came over and said a friend had asked him to hang out. I waved him off. And he rushed out the door. 2. About 2 hours later, I got a message from an unknown number. A picture and a short line of text. Nolan. Beckett's first love is back. Are you really going to keep clinging to what's not yours? A cringy and childish provocation. I didn't feel the slightest bit offended. In fact, I even opened the photo and looked at it closely. In the picture, Beckett was laughing brightly at a pretty young girl. Then another message came in from the same number. Beckett likes young and beautiful Omegas. You're older. And a beta at that. Why waste such a great catch like him? So immature it was almost cute. Totally unbothered. I put down my phone and got back to work. Apparently realizing I wasn't reacting, the person started spamming messages. Hey Nolan. You read it and didn't reply. Feeling insecure now? You're already getting old. Stop clinging like that. Beckett's still young. You can't expect him to waste himself on you forever. Just a friendly tip. You're not that old yet. You can still read properly. Right? Ah. Young people, always so obsessed with these things. Realizing that if I didn't respond, this would go on endlessly, I finally opened the message box. Thanks for letting me know. Out of habit, I added a smiley face. The person on the other end finally went quiet. What I didn't know, though, was that this simple, seemingly polite reply completely threw the sender into chaos. Roman, the one who had sent the messages, nearly jumped up when he saw my reply. What the hell does Nolan mean? Is he mocking me? A friend, clearly part of the scheme, leaned over. Keep your voice down. Don't let Beckett hear you. Roman held out his phone. The smiley face on the screen looked a bit dopey. Look at this. What do you think he means by that? Being so polite. Sending a blushing smiley face. If he's not being passive-aggressive, then, is he actually trying to flirt with me? His friend rolled their eyes. Speechless. Roman. Are you out of your mind? No, seriously. Isn't Nolan into younger guys? What if he's into me now too? You're delusional. 3. After sending that reply, I found myself surprisingly uninterested in getting back to work. Instead, I started reflecting on my relationship with Beckett. Us living together was the result of his parents wanting structure in his life, and my parents hoping I'd finally have some companionship. Both families hit it off right away, and the decision was made, without much say from either of us. His parents were happy that their son would have a mature teacher to guide him. Mine were relieved that I wouldn't end up dying alone in my apartment, undiscovered. Honestly, I was happy too. The partnership between our families brought real business benefits, and it came just in time to help my company level up. Unfortunately, life rarely goes perfectly. While our parents were all on board, and so was Beckett wasn't. The first time I visited with my parents, Beckett just happened to be throwing a tantrum at home. Why should I live with Nolan? That old fossil? Am I getting a tutor or being assigned a grandpa? I don't care what anyone says, I'm not doing it. This kid could be really harsh with his words. I calmed my obviously upset parents and politely knocked on his door. The door opened to reveal Beckett, still visibly fuming. I kept my expression neutral and asked politely, "Hi. Is Beckett home? Who are you?" "I'm Nolan." 4. The young alpha froze for a second, then instinctively cursed under his breath. After that, he awkwardly stepped aside. Please come in." "Thank you." Maybe he was embarrassed after being caught bad-mouthing me during the entire conversation between the two families. Beckett didn't say a single word. After that meeting, I didn't immediately agree to anything. Instead, I asked Beckett to meet me privately. When the coffee and fruit tea arrived, Beckett looked impatient. "Why did you call me here? Just say what you need to say. Do you want to live together with me?" The good thing about talking to young people is that you don't need to beat around the bush, because even if you did, they probably wouldn't get your point anyway. Beckett scoffed. "Does it even matter what I want? Who cares what I think?" "I do." I looked at him seriously. "That's why I'm asking you. If you really don't want this, I'll go and explain it to both our families." Beckett finally shed his rebellious attitude and sat up straight. "Really? You won't get into trouble because of that?" As I thought, still a kind-hearted kid. I stood up with a smile and gave him a gentle pat on the head. "It's fine. I'm older than you, shouldn't I be the one taking on more responsibility?" 5. But in the end, we still ended up living together. Beckett's parents had somehow found out he was deeply infatuated with a girl from a not-so-impressive family background. That was the final straw. They refused to let him keep acting out. And that, indirectly, led to conflict between me and Beckett. The first night of living together, Beckett stood at the bedroom door, clutching his quilt and glaring at me. "You liar. I never should have trusted you. I'm telling you right now, don't even dream of robbing the cradle for the rest of your life." Knowing that nothing I said would get through to him right now, I walked into the bedroom, exhausted, and shut the door behind me. "Oh. All right." Still feeling a little guilty, I reopened the door and asked kindly, "Do you need a pillow? I don't think there's one in the guest room." "No." "Okay. Just don't wake up with a sore neck. Good night." From that night on, Beckett constantly watched me with suspicion. Like he was always on guard, afraid I'd suddenly pounce on him. It was honestly a little funny. I couldn't help teasing him every now and then. 6. To be honest, I've never been a fan of strict or harsh discipline. So in my interactions with Beckett, I always tried to be gentle, patient, and respectful. But just when I'd finally gotten him to start talking to me properly, finally seeing a genuine smile on his face, he came home with a red slap mark across his cheek. My heart tightened at the sight. "What happened? Who did this to you?" I tried to touch his face. But he flinched away. Like it was a reflex. "Don't touch me." Then he went straight into his room and locked the door behind him. Soon after, I heard the harsh sound of a ringtone, followed by something being thrown against the floor. Knowing it wouldn't help to let him stay mad alone, I gently knocked on his door. "Beckett, can you give me a chance to say something? I know you don't want to talk right now. If it's okay, I'll unlock the door and come in. If it's not okay, just throw something at the door." I waited for a moment. When there was no response, I unlocked the door and went in. Beckett was already lying in bed, facing away from me, unmoving. I had just taken a few steps toward him when his phone, tossed into a corner, started ringing again. Caller ID: old man. I picked it up, glanced at Beckett, then walked out to the balcony. 7. Beckett. I swear, if you dare meet up with that Omega again, sending him abroad will be the least of it. I'll make sure he can't even finish school. And you'll be out on the streets. This is Nolan. The voice on the other end paused. Then the tone softened slightly. "Oh. Nolan. Where's that brat Beckett? Put him on. Is he trying to run away from responsibility again?" "No." I took his phone. "I've been thinking. I may not be the right person to guide Beckett anymore." "What? What did that brat do this time?" "I'll kill him if I have to." "No. It's not like that. It's because Beckett is already doing really well. I don't think he needs teaching anymore." Well. The man gave a cold snort, clearly not buying it. "He's doing so well that he defies me and his mother just to go hang around with some gold-digging little punk. Doesn't listen to anything we say. That's what you call excellent?" "I mean it. You've already raised Beckett into someone who's loyal, sincere, and full of passion. That's excellence in itself. What I can still teach him is how to fall and get back up, and how to take responsibility for the choices he makes. I think the best we can do now is give him the courage to make mistakes. Wouldn't you agree?" There was silence on the other end, followed by a long sigh. "That kid's been worrying me since he was little. You're the only one with the patience to still say anything nice about him." "Nolan. Fine. I'll back off. He's yours to teach now." Don't worry. Leave him to me." 8. When I returned to Beckett's room, he was still lying there with his back to me. The room was dark. Was this place a safe haven? Or just a cage for a trapped animal? I sat by the bed and gently stroked his hair. "You've had a rough day. Must be tired." "Huh?" Beckett didn't answer. He just buried his face deeper into the pillow. I tucked him in and spoke softly. "I kept dinner warm for you. If you get hungry, it's there for you." With that, I stood up and quietly left the room, closing the door behind me. Because I knew, if I stayed any longer, Beckett would be angry that I heard the growing sound of his sobs. No matter how grown up someone is, they still have the right to cry. At least in my eyes. They do. Thinking about all kinds of messy things, I stayed up in the living room late into the night. When Beckett finally came downstairs, I was still typing away at my keyboard. I glanced at the clock, 2 a.m. I shut my laptop and headed to the kitchen, quickly reheating the food. When I came out, Beckett was already sitting obediently at the dining table. I placed the food in front of him, but he didn't start eating right away. "Aren't you going to scold me? Eating this late and making trouble?" I chuckled. "Why would I scold you? Is that even a big deal? The only reason I'd scold someone is if they complain that the housekeeper's food is too healthy, then I'll call them a little goofball. Everything else doesn't matter to me." "Oh. Wait, There is one thing I'll definitely scold you for. What is it? Beckett looked up at me. If you don't finish this bowl of food, I'll call you an ungrateful little rascal. I looked straight into Beckett's eyes as I said it. The next second, we both burst out laughing at the same time. Who do you think I am? I'll finish every bite. I patted his head again. Very pleased. Is that so? Then our student Beckett is really something. Ha! Beckett practically buried his face in his bowl. But I still caught sight of his bright red ears. He really is adorable, when he's eating. When he's hiding behind the door eavesdropping on my phone calls. When he tiptoes downstairs trying not to make a sound. 9. After dinner, I noticed that the mark on Beckett's face still hadn't faded. So I pulled him over to the sofa to apply some ointment. While I was tending to it, I couldn't help muttering under my breath. Why hit so hard? That must have hurt. I hadn't expected a response, it was just me talking to myself, but Beckett actually answered. It did hurt. My heart softened a little. And my tone almost turned into one you'd use with a child. It's okay. Once the ointment's on, and we let it breathe a bit, it'll feel better. Beckett finally smiled again. After sulking all day. Seriously. I'm not a kid anymore. Sure. That's what he said. But I clearly saw a tear fall from the corner of his eye. I gently brushed it away. People say that the moment someone is truly exposed isn't when they're physically bare, but when they let someone see the first tear fall with no defenses up. At that moment, he was completely open. And something stirred in my heart. 10. I always said I wanted to guide Beckett. But in reality, I was constantly busy. Besides proper work, there were endless banquets and social obligations. Sometimes, standing in the middle of a massive ballroom, surrounded by CEOs, young elites, celebrities, and influencers, I'd still feel like the loneliest person in the room, trapped inside a slightly bigger cage. One day, I brought Beckett along to a banquet, hoping to expand his social circle a bit. As soon as we arrived, we were surrounded from all sides. I introduced Beckett to each person, made small talk, all while keeping up a flawless, polite smile. Halfway through, my cheeks were starting to cramp from forcing the expression. Then, suddenly, Beckett raised his voice and said, "Hold on. I need to use the restroom." People around us blinked in confusion, but still made space for him. Then Beckett grabbed my hand. "You're coming with me." I was stunned. But he dragged me right out of the crowd by the hand. Halfway there, I realized something was off. "Didn't you say you were going to the bathroom? This isn't the way." Beckett turned to me, putting a finger to his lips. "Shh. Don't make noise. I'm helping you escape." "What?" Then he pulled me by the hand and took off running. All the way to the car. It wasn't until we'd gotten well away from the banquet hall that he finally asked, "Where do you want to go?" I shook my head, still a little dazed. "Then I'll decide for us." He stepped on the gas, and we sped off. It wasn't until we reached the seaside that I finally asked, "Why did you bring me out here?" 11. Beckett turned his head, the sea breeze tossing his hair. "Because you weren't happy." Was I? Totally. That forced smile of yours, it gave me secondhand embarrassment. But I didn't even get the chance to introduce you to anyone properly. I sighed, a bit frustrated. Beckett just laughed shamelessly. "I don't want to meet any of those people. I just want you to be happy. You're such a lunatic." I muttered under my breath. But my face had already relaxed, enjoying the wind. Beckett found a spot and sat down, patting the space next to him. "Come on. Sit here. In 2 hours. We'll see the sunrise. I followed and sat on the sand next to him, listening to the waves. Between the banquet and the drive out here, it was already 3 a.m. I wasn't as young as Beckett. Exhaustion hit me hard. Without meaning to, I leaned my head onto Beckett's shoulder. I dozed off for a while, until he gently woke me. Nolan. The sun's coming up. I didn't move, still resting against his shoulder, but opened my eyes. No matter how many times you see it, the sunrise is always breathtaking, like witnessing it for the first time. Nolan. Happy birthday. Surprised. I turned to look at him. Beckett was smiling. What? You forgot your own birthday? I hadn't celebrated it in years. Another birthday just meant getting older. What was there to celebrate? Another year full of life, congratulations. Looking back on the year, it had been full. Hearing it that way, it didn't feel like life was slipping away. It felt like I was becoming more whole. I leaned back against his shoulder again and smiled. Then I guess I'll congratulate myself. Hey! Nolan. Shouldn't you be thanking me right now? What's with congratulating yourself? TCH. Do you have to be so self-centered? Humph. Humph. I mimicked him with a snort of my own. And then, like a pair of idiots, we both burst into laughter. Turning 30 didn't seem so bad after all. That little rush of rebellion I hadn't felt in years. And being with Beckett, it all felt pretty great. 12. As my thoughts drifted back, I remembered Beckett's outburst earlier. Yesterday. For some reason, he got it in his head to come pick me up from work. Coincidentally, a friend I hadn't seen in a long time, since before Beckett and I got married, also came to the office. It was a natural thing to act close with an old friend. But Beckett decided to get jealous, standing next to me and glaring daggers at my friend the whole time. In the end, I had to practically drag him back to the car. Even as we were leaving, I had to apologize. I promised my little brother from home we'd have dinner tonight. Let's meet another time. All right? Back at home, Beckett was clinging to me, rubbing against me, begging for hugs. Until I finally had to remind him. Beckett. Don't forget what you said at the beginning. But that only made him act worse. He picked me up and changed his tone. What did I say again? That I love going against the rules? If it weren't for a phone call from one of his friends dragging him away, I really would have been worried he'd follow through on that rule-breaking, defying authority. This little maniac. I sighed as I rubbed the spot on my waist where he'd grabbed me. So young. So full of energy. 13. When Beckett came back, he brought Roman with him. He was practically dragging the guy by the head as they walked in. Hey! Apologize. Now. Confused, I instinctively stepped in to stop Beckett from being too rough. What's going on? Beckett. Let go of him first. Beckett gave Roman a shove and looked genuinely angry. This brat was the one who sent you those weird messages today. You should be glad I didn't beat him up. Roman looked annoyed as he lifted his head, gritting his teeth. I was just speaking the truth. What's so wrong with that? Beckett immediately lifted a foot to kick him, but I quickly stepped in between. Roman jumped back, avoiding the kick, and reluctantly looked at me. Sorry. Nolan. I couldn't help laughing and shook my head. These two were too much. It's fine. It was just a couple of messages. Beckett wasn't having it and shouted. What do you mean, just a couple of messages? He was trying to drive a wedge between us. I ignored the subject of that particular accusation and instead pulled Beckett to sit on the couch. I pressed the back of my hand to his cheek. You've probably had a bit too much to drink, your face is burning. Sit tight. I'll make you some hangover soup. Otherwise you're going to feel awful tomorrow. Beckett nuzzled into my hand with a satisfied look. Okay, thanks. Nolan. As I turned around, I noticed Roman was still standing there, looking a bit lost and pitiful, with a hint of resentment. So I tugged him over too. You sit for a while too. Have some soup before you head back. He looked genuinely surprised. Then sat down next to Beckett. A little stunned. 14. When I came out with the hangover soup, I heard Beckett lecturing Roman. I'm telling you. My husband is just being nice. If you pull that crap again, I swear I'll cut you off, got it? I set the bowl down and gave Beckett a light knock on the head. All right. That's enough out of you. Husband. Don't make it sound so official. Beckett lifted his chin. Defiant. Sooner or later, it'll be official. You'll see. There's no point arguing with a drunk. So I dropped the subject and motioned for them both to drink the soup. After they finished, I got up to walk Roman to the door. You've got a driver, right? Be careful on the way. I stood at the gate, pulling my shawl tighter. Roman, who was about to get into the car, suddenly hesitated and walked back over. I'm sorry. I mean it this time. I was a little surprised, but smiled and gave his head a quick pat. It's fine. As long as you're willing to change. It's all good. 15. After sending Roman off, I walked back inside. But as soon as I stepped through the door, before I'd even taken off my shoes, Beckett had me pinned against it. You touched his head. Why? I just patted him. That's all. What's the problem? The problem is, why does he get to have his head touched by you? I'm your student. I'm the only one you should be doing that with. And what about that old guy from earlier, why did he get to hug you? His emotions were spiraling. I had to press a hand against his chest just to keep some space between us. Beckett. Head pats and hugs aren't some exclusive student privilege. You know that. Right? Sensing my resistance, Beckett backed off a little. The heat in his eyes slowly faded to something cooler. So you're saying, the way you treat me. You treat everyone? Of course. Haven't I taught you? Don't mistake kindness for affection. If you do, you'll be the one getting hurt. He frowned, clearly still trying to make sense of it. When people are emotionally overwhelmed, they often start fidgeting. Beckett was doing just that. Tugging his hair one moment, digging his nails into his palms the next. I stood there, watching him, feeling an ache in my chest. Young people always get tangled up in things like this. It's sweet and heartbreaking all at once. After a while, Beckett stepped forward and cupped my face. Just pretend I didn't say anything tonight. Okay. Pretend I didn't ask anything either. I won't get jealous over dumb stuff anymore. Let's go back to how things were. All right? I looked at him fondly and humored him. If you can fool yourself, then sure. Beckett's face went pale. He covered his ears. I can fool myself. I gently took his hand. You're really drunk. Come on. Time for bed. Okay. He followed me quietly and lay down without fuss. But as I tucked him in, he murmured under his breath, "You're so heartless." I smiled but said nothing. Sleep well. Good night. Sometimes, the best way to retreat is not to explain. Not to react. Not to respond. 16. The next morning, when Beckett got up, he looked at me with an awkward expression. So, he hadn't managed to fool himself after all. I acted like nothing had happened and called him over. Come sit down and eat. Anywhere else still hurting? He sat down without a word. Clearly lost in thought. I scooped out a bowl of congee and placed it in front of him. Have some porridge. It'll help you feel better. He stared at it for a while. Then abruptly pushed it away. Like he'd made up his mind. If you're not treating only me like this, then stop doing these things. Was he throwing a tantrum? I picked up the bowl. My tone tinged with regret. Well then. I guess I'll have to eat the last bowl of porridge myself. He watched me take it away. His eyes wide. Then lowered his gaze. Pretending to be strong while visibly sulking. I nearly laughed out loud. I got up. Returned the porridge to him. And ruffled his hair while I was at it. All right. Stop pouting. Be good and eat your porridge. If you really don't like me touching others, I'll try to change. Okay. The pouty look vanished instantly, replaced with a smile he tried hard to hide. Really? Of course. We're going to be living together for a while. We need to learn to understand and tolerate each other. Clang. As soon as the words left my mouth, Beckett threw down his spoon. So you're only changing because we have to live together? Yes. What else? Beckett clenched his fists and stood up. Nolan. Are you messing with me? I blinked. Looking at him innocently. What are you talking about? You're totally messing with me. Just because I'm younger. You think it's fun to play with me, tease me. You know. You know how I. What? How you what? Beckett suddenly fell silent. Staring at me with eyes full of hurt and anger. I tried to speak. To comfort him. But he didn't give me the chance. He turned around and stormed out. For the first time, I felt a headache coming on. Great. I pushed too far. I really pissed off the little puppy this time. 17. Thinking I'd get Beckett a little dessert from the shop downstairs as a peace offering. I did something I rarely do, left work on time. But just as I reached the company entrance, I sighed. There would be no making peace with Beckett today. Because the friend I ran into yesterday was standing right there. Nolan. You're out early today. I was just about to message you. I smiled and walked over. What a coincidence. Yeah. Looks like we're still a bit in sync. Come on. Hop in. We ended up at a restaurant in a private dining room. He was already placing the order with practiced ease. He still remembered all my favorite dishes by heart. On a whim, I asked, "Does this place have good desserts?" Jet looked at me in surprise. Sometimes. But. Nolan. Don't you hate sweets? The kid at home likes them. Jet's expression turned cold in an instant. Oh. I see. Add a dessert then. The server asked. Which one? Sir? Whatever. Maybe realizing he was too cold, Jet quickly tried to soften it. Does he have any allergies? Or favorites? If not, I'll just let the kitchen pick something. I smiled and nodded. That finally eased the tension on his face. 18. That kid at your place, was it the one from yesterday? I nodded and instinctively checked my phone. No messages from Beckett. Not even one. So he was seriously mad. Jet kept talking. Nolan. I used to think you'd never get that close to anyone again. Why's that? I replied offhandedly. Still debating whether I should message Beckett first. Because back when I chased you for so long, you never said yes. I tried so hard and got nowhere, but now some random guy waltzes in and gets close to you. It stings. You know. I finally looked up at him. But in his eyes, I couldn't tell if he was joking or being serious. I sighed inwardly. I really do prefer Beckett's straightforwardness. Trying to decipher a seasoned fox like Jet, it's exhausting. I was young back then. Took love too seriously. Now that I'm older, I see things differently. Then, why not get closer to me again? I chuckled and raised my teacup to hide the scoff at the corner of my lips. You're married, aren't you? That'd be inappropriate. Already divorced. She was too young, I couldn't deal with it. It's better with you. No need to worry so much. Plus, there are benefits. I looked at him. Silently. The same person who once pursued love so purely could now say something like that without blinking. 19. Not wanting to respond to Jet's bait, I felt a wave of irritation rise and decided to deflect. Just then, my phone buzzed, a timely rescue. Where are you? Sender, Beckett. Seeing his name, I instinctively let out a breath of relief. Having dinner. Why? With who? A tricky question. I hesitated for a moment. Jet took the opportunity to ask. Who is it? Nolan? That kid at home. Ha! Jet scoffed at the answer. All traces of social courtesy gone. I ignored him and focused on replying to Beckett. With a friend. The one from yesterday. He didn't even phrase it as a question. There was no point in dodging, it would only look like I was lying. So I admitted it. Yeah. It's him. Want to come join us? I even ordered your favorite dessert, was planning to bring it home for you. There was a pause before he replied. Okay. I'm next door. I'll come over now. So he was nearby. Good thing I didn't try to brush him off. Otherwise, he probably would have barged in anyway. Jet. My kid from home is coming over in a bit. You okay with that? Nolan. Today Before Jet could finish, the door swung open with a loud bang. That kind of entrance clearly wasn't the work of a waiter. I offered Jet an apologetic smile. Sorry. He's young and a bit impatient. Hope you don't mind. Jet forced a tight smile. Beckett. Loud just moments ago. Quietly sat down beside me. At that table. It felt like I was the only one who wasn't pretending. 20. The rest of the meal passed in near silence. I got up to wash my hands. And when I returned, I overheard Jet's voice coming through the slightly ajar door. Sharp. Bitter. What makes you think you can win against me? I paused mid-step. Frowning. If I still wanted to preserve any sort of friendship with Jet, now wasn't the right time to walk in. Because I'm young. Because I love him. Because I'd do anything for him. That was Beckett's voice. I rubbed my forehead. It's nice to have confidence. But youth often comes with impulsiveness, and it shows all too clearly. Sure enough. Jet let out a short laugh. Full of disdain. You'll age. Eventually. Love fades. And as for all those things you say you'd do for him, do you really think he needs that? Beckett. Nolan is 7 years older than you. You know how many people have gone crazy for him before you came along. Some even gave up everything to stay by his side. Just for one word from him. He didn't choose any of them. What makes you think you're any different? That you're worthy of being his one and only? Don't kid yourself. Kid. You'll never be his first. And you'll never be his only. Asterisk asterisk. 21. Every word Jet said was sharp, precise, and true. Honestly, a lot of it was what I wanted to say to Beckett myself. The room fell quiet. I couldn't help but blame Jet a little for being so blunt. Beckett's young. And it's not like his parents pay him much attention. Hearing something that harsh must have cut deep. I sighed and reached for the door handle. Whether we'd stay friends or not was another matter. But I'd worked so hard to help Beckett feel whole again. I couldn't let that all fall apart. Just as my fingers touched the knob, Beckett's voice came through. "You're right, I won't be his first. But I'll be his last. And his only. If you don't believe me, just watch." Asterisk asterisk. The simple words, said slowly and clearly, carried a kind of madness. Now I really had a headache. Was he serious? My hand dropped from the doorknob, wavering. 22. Nolan? Just as I hesitated, a cheerful voice rang out behind me. I nearly jumped, barely holding my composure. Roman peeked over my shoulder with a grin. "Sorry. Did I scare you?" I smiled and shook my head. His eyes swept over me, subtly observant. "You're here for dinner too?" "Yeah." "Oh. Me too. I came with Beckett." He dragged all of us along to meet his ex, his first love who just returned to the country. Then he ran off somewhere and disappeared. Not very subtle. Clearly, he still hadn't given up on trying to break me and Beckett apart. These younger guys, each one more scheming than the last. I rubbed my temples, already exhausted. But Roman stepped closer. "Nolan. Beckett's heart clearly isn't with you. He's not exactly a great choice. But me. I'm also young. But I don't have any scandals. And I'm really well behaved." I stared at him in surprise, finally understanding what he was getting at. Seeing that I didn't immediately refuse, Roman boldly tugged on my sleeve. "Why not pick me instead?" "Gidge?" For the first time in ages, one clear thought surfaced in my mind. Help. Everything was spiraling out of control. Inside, two people were locked in emotional combat. Out here, another one was plotting. What was going on this year? Was being a middle-aged man suddenly in? This was ridiculous. 23. "Roman. What are you doing?" A voice like a lifeline cut through the chaos. Beckett stood in the doorway of the private room. Roman didn't let go. In fact, he clung tighter. "Beckett. Didn't you say before that you didn't like Nolan? If you don't want him, then I'll take your place. I don't have a first love. I won't back out of relationships. I'm way more suitable to be by his side than you are." Beckett raised an eyebrow, clearly trying to hold back his rage. His fist clenched. He walked toward me. Fast. Just as his fist was about to meet Roman's face, I raised my hand and stopped him. "Beckett. Don't make a scene. Let's go home." He kept his eyes locked on Roman, who glared back defiantly. Jet leaned against the doorway, watching the drama unfold with a cold smile. "Beckett. I won't say it a third time. Let's go home." Finally, he let it go. He wrapped an arm around my waist and led me out. Maybe it was guilt, maybe something else. But I didn't resist the way he touched me. Maybe I never should have approached him with a playful heart to begin with. Who would have thought I'd be 30 and still dealing with things like this? 24. In the car, Beckett stubbornly kept his eyes fixed on the window, refusing to look at me. I glanced at our hands, resting just inches apart on the seat between us. After hesitating for a while, I placed mine over his. Still mad? The moment my hand touched his, I felt him stiffen. Then, he turned abruptly and buried his face in the crook of my neck. Why would I be mad? Nolan. I only realized today. I don't even have the right to be angry with you. I gently patted his head, trying to comfort him. But I had no words. Even I wasn't sure what to make of our relationship anymore. Seeing I didn't respond, Beckett lifted his head to look at me. He stared at me, inching closer and closer. If I can't have you, then I'll belong to you. I'll be your dog, collar and leash in your hands. And I'll spend my whole life circling only around you. Is that okay? Before I could react, he kissed me. And I, with a mix of guilt and something else I couldn't name, maybe indulgence, kissed him back. Thankfully, I'd raised the privacy divider when we got in the car. In that tight space, only the two of us knew how suffocating the emotions were. He wiped the dampness between our lips. Then tears suddenly fell. I like you so much. Why? He cried as he spoke, not sure if he was asking me or himself. But I knew the answer. Because he was like a love letter thrown half-finished into the trash. Someone created him, but never gave him genuine care. If anyone would just pick him up, smooth out his creased pages, and carefully read the blurred lines of affection written inside, they'd discover the overwhelming love he'd never had anywhere to go. Still, what I told him was, it's because you haven't met someone better yet. Once you do, you won't feel this way anymore. 25. Alright. I admit it. Maybe at some point I hadn't noticed. Or maybe it was on my birthday. I had truly felt something for Beckett. But I also knew, when you're in your 20s, it's easy to fall for someone. He was young, with endless unexplored options, and plenty of love still left to give. I couldn't risk staking the rest of my life on a love that might be fleeting. I was scared. I'll admit that too. But Beckett wiped away his tears and looked at me, speaking clearly. You're the best. I'm sure of it. I looked back at him, speechless. I'd seen too many peers obsessed with gain, skilled at pretending. Compared to that, this earnest and open affection felt like it came from a different world. No matter how hard I tried to lie to myself, my heartbeat never failed to betray me. People of any age have the right to fall in love. At least for me, that's still true. 26. To my surprise, instead of discouraging Beckett, my words only lit a fire in him. From that day on, every time our eyes met, his were full of fierce determination, like he was gearing up for battle. And ever since then, he'd stuck to me like glue. To an absurd degree. Forget people like Roman, even Jet couldn't get within a foot of me without Beckett intervening. Put bluntly, he was like a fiercely territorial, increasingly muscular guard dog. On one particular evening at a banquet, a friend glanced at Beckett and laughed. That kid Beckett? One look and I can tell he's your disciple. I followed his gaze toward Beckett, who was starting to show a touch of composure, and smiled. Outwardly, maybe, but deep down, he's still just a kid. My friend grinned wider, shooting me a teasing look. Nolan, looks like your old house is catching fire. I shook my head helplessly and sipped my wine without comment. 27. What are you talking about? Beckett walked up to me and casually took the glass from my hand. Drinking again? Why not? Nolan, are you really living under your boyfriend's thumb now? My friend picked up the joke with a chuckle. But Beckett answered seriously. His stomach's been upset lately. He shouldn't be drinking. Oh, I thought you two were trying to have a baby or something, no alcohol allowed. He stretched the joke even further. Beckett's ears turned red, a rare blush spreading across his face. It had been a long time since I'd seen this softer, more innocent side of him. I couldn't help but side with my friend and tease him too. Have a baby? I'm not a woman. Speaking of that, did you know Beckett used to insist on only dating girls? He even had a first love. I was halfway through the story when Beckett tugged my sleeve. leaning in to stop me. I didn't. I told you. I made that up to rebel against my parents. I laughed at how childish he was. Then suddenly, my friend said, "Speaking of first loves, Nolan. I heard your first love's back in town. The foreigner who dropped everything to follow you here. Remember? You once cried to me about him. Said he was your first love." Yes. I remembered. But was now really the time to bring that up, in front of Beckett? I didn't dare turn around to check Beckett's reaction. Instead, I shot my friend a glare full of blame. He just grinned and mouthed silently. Jealousy strengthens relationships. You're welcome. Sure. A little jealousy could help spice things up. But ever since that drama-filled night, Beckett had been especially sensitive about this kind of thing. Too much jealousy. Not great either. 28. On the way home, Beckett was back to his old ways, staring out the window. Ignoring me. This time, I carefully tugged his sleeve. Are you mad again? He yanked his arm away without answering. I tried again, gently reaching for his hand. Don't be mad. I haven't had anything to do with him for a long time. Then what's he doing here? Maybe he's just visiting. Of all places. He had to visit the city where your epic love story took place. Beckett yanked his hand away again, his whole body screaming, "Don't touch me." So I played along. Yeah. Why did he come here of all places? Should I call and ask him? I pretended to pull out my phone, only for Beckett to snatch it away. You said you didn't have his number anymore. Finally, he was willing to face me. I cupped his face in my hands and kissed the corner of his lips. I didn't lie. I was just messing with you. You wouldn't even look at me. He wasn't the same Beckett who used to melt at every little kindness. Even with his eyes softening, he still wouldn't give in so easily. Nolan, you always play with my feelings. That's so unfair. Unfair again. Then should this unfair man kiss you again? Yeah. Beckett leaned closer. But didn't kiss me, he waited. So I met his silent request and kissed his cheek. Then he turned his other cheek. This side too. I laughed and obliged. Out of nowhere, my friend's words resurfaced in my mind. Your old house is on fire. If that meant someone older falling hard, then maybe my house had already burned to ashes. I sighed. In the end, I hadn't escaped the fate I used to scoff at. 29. Beckett heard me sigh, and to my surprise, he leaned in and kissed me. Why are you sighing? I'm not mad anymore. Okay. But you're not allowed to be like this. You're not allowed to lose patience with me. I scratched under his chin gently and answered in a soft voice. I haven't lost patience with you. You're so adorable, how could I ever get impatient with you? Beckett wrapped his arms around me, hanging on to me even though he was a whole size bigger. Really? But I'm still scared. Because you can make my emotions rise and fall so easily, and yet I can't even get the word love out of your mouth. You always see right through me when I'm trying to test you. And I don't even know if your heart has ever skipped a beat because of me. Nolan. Sometimes I wonder, do you treat others this well when I'm not around? Like a nervous pup circling in place, whimpering for reassurance. He just wanted an answer. No. I won't lose patience. And I won't treat anyone the way I treat you. Why not? Because, the way I treat you, that's something I only do for someone I love. Beckett's eyes lit up like fireworks. What? What did you say I was? Can you say it again? The way he looked at me, it was like a puppy begging to hear the story one more time. The one where he was the chosen one among all the others. I said, I only treat my lover this way. Before I could even finish, Beckett lunged forward and kissed me hard. You said it. You can't take it back now. Nolan. You're stuck with me. Why would I want to escape? After all this time. I'd already let him in, consciously. Knowingly. Over and over again. Hadn't I? 30, extra, Beckett. I've never claimed to be a good person. I know that about myself. My words are harsh. My behavior's reckless. I've always made everything about me. My parents? They've probably been driven half mad by my attitude. They wanted me to meet some well-bred debutante. So I told them I liked girls from ordinary families. They tried to send me to study under some mentor. So I called the guy a washed-up relic. I used my youth as an excuse, over and over, refusing to change. Stubborn. Reckless. Immature. Impulsive. That was the world I lived in, one where everyone else had to dance around me. Until Nolan showed up. The first time we met. He caught me bad-mouthing him. To be honest, I didn't even feel that guilty about it at the time. I just thought, this guy looks so weak. One harsh sentence and he'd probably fall apart. So, without even realizing it, I didn't say anything cruel again. Even when my parents brought him up as someone to build ties with. I didn't argue. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I couldn't afford to. But after that, I couldn't help falling headfirst into the sea of gentleness called Nolan. And for the first time in my life, I learned what it meant to be afraid. He cared for me. He protected me. He spoiled me. He doted on me. He even coaxed me when I was difficult. But I didn't know if he'd ever treated someone else the same way. Maybe before me. Or maybe even now. And how did he become so gentle in the first place? Who shaped that part of him? I didn't know. What could I possibly do to become the one and only in his life? I didn't know that either. Jet was right. Everything I wanted to do for Nolan, someone else had already done it. Years ago. But still, I couldn't let it go. He told me I mattered to him. He said I could be his lover. Even if I'm a mess, anxious, clingy, and confused. I'm not letting go. Even if it means being his dog.